So before we get the meeting started, I would like to welcome Patrick A. Bent with Interquest Church, Milton, Georgia, to provide us with an invocation.
Thank you. So let's just all close our eyes right now and take a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, let's just let go of the day. We're going to close our eyes to the busyness of the day so that we can focus on the business tonight. So as we just close our eyes and just breathe, we're going to breathe in God's love and ask that God's love fill us all. And just breathe and surrender to the transforming love of God filling you. And we ask that this love fill this room. And we ask that this love and wisdom of God fill this city council as they stand forth to steward this city in its highest and best unfoldment. Father, we ask that only the highest and best good happen here for this city this night. And we give thanks that it is done. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for May 19th, 2014 to order. Will the city clerk please call roll and make the general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the May 19th, 2014 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to provide public comment, either during the public hearing or during the call for public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards are received by the city clerk staff prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood is absent. Councilmember Karen Thurman is on her way. Councilmember Matt Kuntz.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Luss.
Here.
Councilmember Bert Hewitt.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Joe Longoria.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Morick, who is calling in this evening from South Bend, Indiana, is here. This evening, we are honored to have the Sons of the American Revolution lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please rise?
Ready, halt. To the right, pace. Present arms. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. To the left, pace. To the front, march.
All right, as the clerk said, the mayor's out of town for this meeting, so bear with me as the alternate fills in for the day. Will the city clerk please sound the next item?
Our next item is approval of the meeting agenda. This is agenda item number 14127.
Mayor,
Are there any other items that need to be considered?
We need to add an executive session for land acquisition.
All right. Is there a motion or a second?
Mayor, I'll move to approve the meeting agenda with the addition of an executive session to discuss land acquisition.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Lusk, a second by Councilmember Kuntz. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, he's going to have to be in a couple seconds delay. All right, Rick, we'll remember that moving forward.
It's the time zone.
Yeah. It's got to go all the way to South Bend and back.
That's right.
All right, that's approved. Sudi, do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
We have no public comment. That means I get to skip a whole big script related to public comment. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda, will the city clerk please sound the items?
Our first item this evening is approval of the May 5th, 2014 City Council regular meeting minutes. This is agenda item number 14128. Next, approval of the financial statements for the period ending April 2014. Agenda item number 14129. Our third consent agenda item is approval of a Parks and Recreation agreement for outside providers between the City of Milton and Sperber Music. Agenda item number 14130. Next, approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Pond and Company for Freemanville at Birmingham Road and Providence Road intersection improvements concept design. Agenda item number 14131. Next, approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Peoples and Quigley, Inc. to provide professional engineering services for the design of the Fire Station number 43 septic field replacement. This is agenda item number 14132. Our sixth consent agenda item this evening is approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Blunt Construction Company, Inc. for the fiscal year 2014 road resurfacing projects. Agenda item number 14133. Next, approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Uray Companies, LLC for the Webb Road Sidewalk Improvement Project. Agenda item number 14134. Next, approval of a service agreement between the City of Milton Police Department and Vigilant Services, Inc. for licensing and software services for the police department's automated license plate readers. Agenda item number 14135. And our final consent agenda item this evening is approval of an agreement between the City of Milton and Special Events Network, LLC for the Movies at the Flicks and Food Trucks Summer Event Series on June 14th, July 12th, and August 2nd, 2014. This is agenda item number 14136.
Thank you, Sudi. Is there a motion and a second?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second the motion.
All right, I've got a motion by Councilmember Hewitt and a second by Councilmember Lusk. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, I'll remember that next time. Thank you, Rick.
I'm still here.
That's approved. Moving on to reports and presentations. Will the city clerk please sound the next item?
Our next item this evening is a proclamation recognizing Memorial Day. This is being presented by Councilmember Bill Lusk.
Thank you, Sudi. This coming Monday, a week from today, we'll celebrate Memorial Day in the city of Milton, as they do for most other cities around the United States. And this year we'll have our ceremony at Freedom Parkway, or at Freedom Park, which is on the corner of Deerfield Parkway and Webb Road, park that we opened last fall. We hope everybody spreads the word and like to see great participation there this year as we have in the past years. So to pay tribute to that day, we are issuing this proclamation for Memorial Day. Whereas Memorial Day was first officially proclaimed on May 5th, 1868 by General John Logan in his General Order Number 11, and in 1968 by Act of Congress, it was determined that the holiday would be observed on the last Monday in May. And whereas from the opening battles of the American Revolution through the turmoil of the Civil War to World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, to the Persian Gulf, and today's operations in the War on Terror in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all around the world, the members of our military have built a tradition of honorable and faithful service. And whereas we observe Memorial Day, we remember the more than 1 million Americans who have died to preserve our freedom, the more than 140,000 citizens who were prisoners of war, and all those who were declared missing in action. We also honor our veterans for their dedication to America and their sacrifice. And whereas we have honor and privileges of living in a free country, and Georgia has a rich history of great leaders who died fighting for our great nation, today, all who wear the uniform of the United States are serving at a crucial hour in history. And each has answered a great call to serve our nation on the front lines of freedom. Let us pray for the safety and strength of our troops and for God's blessing on them and their families, and for those who have lost loved ones. And whereas on this Memorial Day, we honor our fallen soldiers and their commitment to our country and their legacy of patriotism and sacrifices of many men and women who answered the nation's call to duty and fought with honor and valor, and in the end gave the ultimate sacrifice to safeguard the rights of all Americans. And whereas by giving their lives in this cause of freedom, these heroes have protected and inspired all Americans, and we are truly grateful for their sacrifice. And whereas the citizens of Milton join with people across the nation in remembrance of those who died while courageously serving their country during war. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the city of Milton, Georgia, hereby dedicate and proclaim Monday, 26 May 2014 as Memorial Day in the city of Milton, and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens, given under my hand and seal of the city of Milton, Georgia, on this 19th day of May 2014. Like color guard front and center in council, go down and present this proclamation.
Ready? Oh. To the left. Pace.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure having you guys here. Thanks a lot. Good to see you again. Somebody put a chair up front for you. Good to see you.
On behalf of all veterans, I'd like to thank the city of Milton and city council for remembering the sacrifices of the veterans so that we're able to meet today and effect government in a way that is with freedom and without the worry of tyranny or suppression. So again, we want to thank the city of Milton for everything you've done to remember your veterans.
Thank you all for coming over here and helping us celebrate.
Good job, Rick.
Did you get my picture?
We did.
We'll Photoshop you in.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope you helped something up.
You might be out of scale, but we'll fix it.
Oh, we're pretty good at Photoshop.
All right. We do not have any items under first presentation or public hearing. So moving on to our zoning agenda, will the city clerk please read the zoning rules and sound the first item?
The second regularly scheduled meeting of the month, the mayor and city council consider a zoning agenda. These items include rezoning petitions, modifications of zoning, use permits, and associated concurrent variances, in addition to ordinances, resolutions, and text amendments. I would like to acquaint you this evening with some of the rules and procedures. The applicant and all those speaking in support of an application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the petition. The applicant may choose to save some of the time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks, provided time remains with the allotted time. The city clerk will be keeping track of time and will inform you periodically of the remaining time for your presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable, before beginning their presentation. The Planning Commission has heard the rezoning agenda item, and recommendations have been forwarded to the mayor and city council for consideration and disposition. The applicant shall not submit material to the council during this meeting unless requested to do so. All material that you wish to be reviewed by the council in consideration of your application should be submitted to the Community Development Department to be included in the normal distribution of packages to the council. When an opponent of a rezoning action has made, within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the rezoning action being opposed, campaign contributions aggregating $250 or more to a local government official of the local government, which will consider the application, it shall be the duty of the opponent to file a disclosure with the governing authority of the respective local government at least 5 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting. A violation of relevant state statute constitutes a misdemeanor. Therefore, if you have contributed $250 or more to a council member and you have not filed a disclosure prior to the Planning Commission meeting, the city attorney strongly suggests that you have someone else speak for your point of view. Our zoning item this evening is consideration of ZM 14-02 805 Honors Circle, Lot 25, Jalil Parak, to modify Condition 1E, RZ 85-181, to the following: to reduce the 100-foot building setback from the property line of the CUP to 60 feet along the south property line for Lot 25. This is agenda item number 14137. First presentation was heard at May 5th, 2014 regularly City Council meeting. Ms. Robin McDonald.
Good evening, Council. And today we have 805 Honor Circle. The applicant's residence is requesting zoning modification to the community unit plan. And that is before you is the location. And you can see where it's positioned in the subdivision. This is a current zoning. The light green is the CUP designation. And it is just on the edge of it. And the condition, as Sudi read, to be modified is to provide at least 100-foot building setback from the property line of the CUP. And the applicant is requesting to reduce the 100-foot building setback to a 60-foot building setback along the property line. The subject site is located within the Estates at Atlanta National, which is zoned CUP pursuant to RZ 85-181 and is developed with a single-family residence and pool. Since the incorporation of the city, there have been 4 approved modification requests to reduce the 100-foot setback. There was a community zoning information meeting held on April 22nd of this year, and there was 1 resident who attended and was not in opposition to the request based on the fact that the additional drive was off of Tournament Players Drive and not Honor Circle, where his house is currently located. And this is the site plan of the proposed addition of the pool house / garage, and showing the new driveway that comes off of Tournament Players Drive. Also, there's elevations, a little difficult to see, but elevation of the garage structure. The purpose of the proposed reduction is to construct a new garage pool house directly behind the existing pool. There's a circle drive that has a curb cut on Tournament Players Drive and Honor Circle, as well as an additional driveway to the side entry garage on Honor Circle. The applicant has proposed an additional driveway on Tournament Players Drive to provide access to the new garage pool house. Staff notes that the city allows no more than 2 driveways for each frontage, and therefore the proposed additional driveway meets this requirement. By placing the new driveway and pool house a minimum of 60 feet from the adjacent property line, it minimizes the amount of clearing of vegetation and provides a direct route to the proposed garage pool house. Therefore, staff recommends approval conditional to modify condition 1E as requested, which is to provide at least a 100-foot building setback from the property line of the CUP, except for lot 25, shall provide a 60-foot building setback along the property line. And that is staff's report. Thanks. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. And the applicant is also here for any questions.
Do we have questions? Go ahead, Bill.
One of Robin, one of your opening statements there, you said there had been 4 requests for type of zoning variance since the city was incorporated?
Correct, and also additional ones prior to that.
Specifically in this neighborhood?
Yes.
Or throughout the city?
No, specifically for this neighborhood. Yes.
And were they all approved?
Yes. They varied in between 50 feet and 10 feet, and, so it was various dimensions that occurred. We actually have another one coming up on your next agenda, too. So.
Goes for 6. One of them, I think, related to a pool house previously, too, did it not?
Correct. That situation was the pool house was mistakenly built over the property line, so the actual house pool structure had to be demolished and reconstructed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am assuming even once approved, this would still have to meet their HOA requirements?
Correct, and we have a letter on file saying that it was that the HOA was in favor of this. So.
Any other questions? All right. Sudie, do we have folks who want to speak in favor?
We only have 1 public comment card, and that is from the applicant.
So I'm imagining he's going to speak in favor.
Yes.
Hey, I'm quick. All right.
You hadn't heard from Rick yet.
And that's Mr. Jaleel Parak.
If you want to come up to the podium, there you go. And just state your name and your address.
J. Purak, 805 Honor Circle.
Did you have anything that you wanted to say in support?
I've been speaking with
This is for the,
McDonald.
just so you know, this is for the record, in case somebody comes back and wants to see, what was said at the time that we approved or disallowed this request. So you just have an opportunity to say what you would like to say
I
regarding the
understand.
item.
I live in a small community, and it's about 20 homes, and we know each other, and for better or worse, and and everybody basically nobody has any objection. A gentleman showed up, and he had some concern about the excessive number of driveways on Honor Circle, and we adjusted to the other road.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So that's it, Sudie?
That's
So
all, sir. There's
no
none
need to
in-
go into anything else.
None in opposition.
All right, so the public hearing is now closed. Is there any council discussion related to this item? Matt?
Joe, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve agenda item number 14137 with the conditions that the staff had recommended.
I'll second.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Kuntz and a second by Councilmember Hewitt. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I heard Rick that time. All right. Any not in favor? No, that passes. All right, there are no items under unfinished business. Moving on to new business. Will the clerk please sound the first item?
Our first item is consideration of an agreement between the City of Milton and Dillon Forge, Inc. for Bell Memorial Park Public Art. This is agenda item number 14138.
I'll handle it.
Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. This has been dropped on me, so I'll try to make it through wherever I can with this. This is an agreement that the City of Milton would like to have with Dillon Forge Incorporated for the Bell Memorial Park statue that we're doing for the renovations to the park. It's a unique opportunity that we have the artists living in the community. I know that you've visited the artist studio if you went on the little field trip that we had. And he is here tonight, Michael Dillon, along with his lovely wife, Lauren. And they also brought the artwork, Victory, for you to look at again if you'd like to see it. Again, this is an agreement with them. The fee for the artwork is $60,000. This is below the industry standard of 1% of the total project cost, so I think that we're doing pretty well there. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Wait, does anybody have any questions?
You're going to bring up the model too?
Would you like to see the artwork again?
Well, sure.
Okay.
We picking this up on the video?
You can see a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about it?
And
Yes.
I can see it now.
This is the model. Okay. This is the model for the structure. This will be forged out of solid steel. The top part will be chrome plated. It's a hard chrome they use on hydraulics. It's very durable and it'll withstand the elements, and it will give it the color that we proposed for like a trophy, or we're trying to get that message across as this figure of its stance of victory. And we do have a sample of the piece.
This is
If you guys
chrome-plated
could,
steel.
if you want to pass it around.
And so you can see that there's a variance in texture depending on how he finishes the steel on here. You can get anything from shiny to very, very matte.
And the hand really relates to the other pieces that will be made for the Wall of Fame. And the proposal is to have impressions in the metal that reflect the sports equipment, as well as human interaction, footprints or handprints, hiking boot, that type of thing. Will also be imprinted in the base, which will be left in iron, and it will be a natural patina for the base. And this structure stands about 12 feet tall, and I think we said maybe 6 feet wide.
And in the proposal that you have, the lines on the wings do occur on both sides.
Yeah, here's so those impressions will be forged actually on both sides.
And how long is it going to take you to put this together, Mike?
Well, I'm free right now, so. This is, I'm embarking on a kind of a new, not a new, but really what I call the next phase of what I intend to do with my sculpture, and that is the large, industrially forged pieces. And I think that that's going to set me apart from a lot of other sculptors, especially blacksmiths that don't have that ability. So to do this piece, I am building a forge that can handle the material, which right now the capability of my forging is up to 5-inch. This piece will be starting at 6-inch square, so that's how big the material will be. So that process will maybe take a few weeks to be able to, maybe a month to build the forge, but other than that, I'm ready to go. Wow. So, I mean, I anticipate a few hundred hours, maybe 400 or 500 hours in this work. Just depends on, how smoothly everything goes. I'm always pushing myself to kind of develop new ways of working the material, and this is not, this is not something I haven't done before, but it's on a scale I haven't approached before. But I hope to even take it to the next level. So.
But the part construction deadline should not be an issue.
Yeah. I know you have a couple apprentices in your shop.
Really, I work alone. My dogs don't have any thumbs, so it's kind of hard for them to help. But I do.
They give you moral support.
Yeah, they carry the logs around for me. But I have a friend that works with me from time to time. He has a shop. He actually took over my old shop in Ducktown that I had. So he's kind of on his own, but I'm helping him get started. And he's a young gentleman that's a machinist. He went to school for machining, and he's really good at what he does. And also, I think, working in my shop, I tend to be kind of selfish and want to do what I want to do on my time schedule, so it's hard for me to entertain the idea of having somebody help me. But I call him in from time to time. But I also do reach out to, younger people and people that want to get interested in the craft and offer them tours of my shop and offer them help to find equipment. I belong to blacksmith groups locally and nationally that I try and, educate people on blacksmithing and the craft. And I think that, Milton, we could have a great opportunity to do more of that, with this project, and introduce more people to blacksmithing and sculpture in general. So it's a great opportunity.
Could be the Ivan Bailey of Milton.
I knew Ivan Bailey, and I was very impressed with his work when I met him when he was at King Plow, and he was a wonderful blacksmith, and he's just recently passed on. But
Pardon me?
He recently passed.
I didn't know that.
They gave him a big farewell down in Westville, Georgia, which was the formation of Abana, which is our national group. And Ivan was key to that formation of Abana. So it was nice that people came together and remembered Ivan. So.
My son worked for him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Impressive piece of work.
Well, have you been to the shop? I know
Yes.
a few.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite the place to work. I certainly do enjoy it.
Matt?
Yeah, two questions. Is the base going to be, did I hear right, is the base going to be a bell for Bell Memorial?
Yeah, the idea right now is maybe to flare the bottom out a little bit more. But I also would like to incorporate that imagery in the plaques that go on the Wall of Fame, stamping of a bell. And I think that will relate not only to the donors, but the school that used to reside on the property.
And is there, I guess the other question from a safety issue, if there's ever a maximum amount of wind resistance?
These pieces are engineered, all my public sculptures are engineered to withstand, I think they're up to 120 mile per hour winds.
Okay.
Something like that. But this piece, being forged out of solid material, the foundation needs to be engineered to support that. Other than that, you're going to have to hit it with a Mack truck to knock it over.
We're going to have some kind of interior into the ground.
Yes, the foundation plays a big role in in this type of work, and it's engineered for seismic and wind loads. And
How far under the ground would we have to build a?
that's up to the engineer.
That's the engineer.
But the piece I did for Duluth recently weighed 6,500 pounds. It was 23 feet long and 10 feet tall, and we poured a 10 foot by 10 foot by 1 foot thick pad. So it was much larger than this and spanned much more area.
Right.
To give you an idea. I'd say you're probably talking about maybe 3 feet square, something like that, maybe a foot thick. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but it's a guess.
I was talking before the at your place at your shop, which is very impressive how you got all that up that hill to begin with. But
a piece at a time.
I'm sure lots of pieces. The way that's facing us right now, I would love for that, as for a council, if that was situated for that, would look at the road as everybody's coming down Bell Memorial, if it stands there, and then the backside is as he's looking up into the parks. I think that would be a great.
There won't be a backside.
Yeah,
I was going to say it's ambiguous.
Right.
And then you have.
Well, and that's the backside of the park,
Yeah.
where all the fields are, I think, is where Lauren, you're standing.
Yeah, I really
Exactly.
tried to develop this work from a model I did for the Civil Rights Museum downtown. And it was a winged figure that looked like it was either embracing or it was exiting.
Right.
So it was that idea that led me to this. And I think that that's what I'm going to try to capture within this piece is that there isn't a front or back, but it's a different emotion.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
Anything else? Have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consideration of an agreement between the City of Milton and Dillon Forge Incorporated for Bell Memorial Park Public Art, agenda item number 14138.
I'll second it.
All right, I've got a motion by Councilmember Kuntz and a second by Councilmember Thurman. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion passes.
Victory.
Let the building commence.
Well, the city clerk sound the next item.
Our next item is consideration of a Parks and Recreation Agreement for outside providers between the City of Milton and Southern Educational Resources, LLC. Agenda item number 14139.
I'll go ahead and handle this.
Okay.
Tonight, since Jim is not here, members of the council, this is one of the agreements that would routinely come forward by the Parks and Rec Department. It's a partnership with a private partner for services to be provided in Milton in one of the facilities that we have by virtue of either owning it or our relationship with Fulton County. This particular one deals with more of an education component. It's more academic, more learning-based, more week-type camps. It's intended to reach out to that teenager who might not otherwise be involved in recreation activities. There's many educators that came together and formed this company and are bringing this forward. I held it for one meeting. It was set to come forward at the last meeting, and I held it to ask some additional questions as to whether or not this philosophically was the type of programs that the government should be involved in offering to the public, or whether or not these types of programs are better offered by the private sector, and whether we really even need to be in the middle of this game. Bringing it forward tonight, not having really solved that philosophical debate in my head, but recognizing that these programs were offered last summer. They're offered just under a different title this summer. So these programs would be repeats of last year. They just came together in the form of an LLC this year. So it's more coordinated this year, which is why I caught it. We probably need to have that philosophic discussion at some point as to what services we want to be in the business of delivering and which ones we don't. But I don't see at this point that there's any harm in allowing this to go forward this year. Again, it would be a carryover of something that happened last year, and we share in a percentage of the revenues like we do in all the other partnership-type programs that we have in Parks and Rec. And these would be delivered at the assortment of schools that we have around Milton that we have access to deliver programs in. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but that's why this one was a bit a bit different in coming forward to you under new business as opposed to the consent agenda is because I do want to say that I've struggled with allowing this to come to the agenda more from a philosophic basis than anything else. And I think we probably need to have that discussion at some point. If you think it's enough of a philosophic issue now that we were to schedule it for a work session, we certainly could do that and hold off on adopting this contract tonight. But again, timing is really kind of the essence, and I didn't want to have the train not leave the station and us not deliver programs when spaces otherwise would be vacant if we could be making an impact, even if that happens while we decide if this is a good thing to do long term. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
When is this program scheduled to start?
These are all summer provided, so from when school gets out until school's back in. So it's a very discrete 3-month period, starting probably in about the next 10 days. I could pull it up and tell you exactly when it started, but
so we wouldn't have time for a work session between now and the scheduled start date.
We don't. That is correct. We do not have time to get that done, and I won't be here for the June work session. And unfortunately, it's kind of my philosophic issue that I've presented and brought forward, more so than the Parks and Rec Department. So I'd like to be a part of that conversation, just so I can get some guidance from you as to whether we want to be in science programs.
I hope, though, a lot of our camps are somewhat educational, even if it's in a minor part of it. To me, I don't have a problem with the city being involved in a science camp at all, because I think it's something that is a benefit to our residents. I mean, they don't have to belong to it if they don't want to, but I don't have a problem with us partnering with someone for a science type camp. I mean, it helps the kids.
Correct. I don't either, and I don't know that that's necessarily my issue with this one. It's the issue that there was a different way that many people could have competed to use the space that the city has locked down. So, there was a vetting process that would have allowed this to occur and happen otherwise. But to come through us, it kind of takes that vetting process and puts it to the side because we have control of the facilities. Right? So to partner with us means you don't have to compete with anybody else who would want those facilities to do the same thing.
So you're implying they're getting preferential treatment?
Well, I guess I am implying that. No, I don't really think I'm implying that because we have the facilities. As long as we have a good program that is being delivered in it, then I don't know that there's any preferential treatment of this over any other. But
do we have other vendors that are offering similar services that we're not considering because we've done business with these guys before?
We do not. No,
Okay.
I don't have anybody else coming forward. I'm just suggesting that if we didn't use the space, it would be used. It would just be used in a different mechanism. The Board of Ed would have a vetting process to decide who got to use it. So the thing we bring to the table is we get the use. So if we get the use, we get to pick who we partner with.
Right.
But if we had 2 or 3 people come and want to use the same space, then we would go through the same vetting process to figure out who we were going to allow to use that space.
That's correct.
The vetting would come from us rather than the Board of Education.
Correct. And to that point, I don't have a line of people that are seeking to do the same thing. And this is a good group of people. So, again, it was absolutely nothing that had anything to do with this contract. It was more thinking big policy picture as we get these through, when we do start to have people that all want to do the same thing, what are we going to do to score them so that we pick the right partner?
The debate you had in your head was not the content of the program, just how it gets delivered.
Correct. It's probably a next summer issue or a summer after that once we end up with some competition. I want to be prepared for the competition rather than reacting to it when it happens.
So are we vying, are other people vying for this same time slot or the same type of program? And how do they come about? Do they come about through an RFP to present these programs?
There is not somebody vying for the same time slots for what this particular contract is tonight. In some of the sporting type events, we have gone to the market with an RFP, soccer, for example, or lacrosse. These really, whether the relationship is the city reaching out to somebody to provide something or somebody reaching out to us saying, hey, is there an opportunity to use the space you have? That has gone both directions. I believe in this one it was this company coming to us saying, we'd like to do again what we did last year. We we put a little bit more formality to it. We formed up as an LLC. We went out and got the insurance you wanted us to get. We gave them a list of things that we wanted them to do to be able to offer the same programs. So it's not a problem right now because there's no competition. But if we were to get somebody else knock on our door tomorrow and say, I'd like to offer a competing program to that and I'm just as qualified, we need to be prepared to respond to that in the future.
I would say as long as the facility is there and we have someone to use it, whatever that use is, I'm okay with that. But I do think that we should direct in the Parks and Rec Board to come up with some kind of a program for getting ready for the competition, as you say. And obviously we have the summer going on, but hopefully by the fall we should have that.
Some of these sound fun and they don't have a maximum age.
Yeah, if you're wanting to dispatch zombies or whatever. I had to read the specifics of that because when I saw that, I wanted to make sure it had some educational component to it. It's actually an emergency management type camp, planning for disaster, which is actually probably a good camp for a young adult, late teenager to attend.
All right. Does anybody else have anything? All right. A motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 14-139.
Second motion. All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Hewitt, second by Councilmember Lusk. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Well, you were quick that time, Rick. Any opposed? That motion passes.
I'm going to I've got to run back down to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. It was a bit heated when I left, so I'm going to go back to that. And
all right.
I'll see y'all in executive session.
All right. Will the city clerk sound the final new business item?
Final item this evening is consideration of a resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds and the execution, delivery, and performance of an intergovernmental contract relating thereto. Agenda item number 14-140. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, this is the basically the other side of the coin with respect to the resolution that you adopted in your PFA hat earlier this afternoon. This would authorize an IGA intergovernmental agreement for the issuer to issue a revenue bond of not to exceed $10 million for the project as they are identified in the resolution. I want to say a couple of things. First of all, the city's bond attorney, Mr. Roger Murray, is in the audience. To the extent that the council has any questions for Mr. Murray with respect to the specifics of the financing of the transaction, I would ask that you direct those to Mr. Murray. I also want to mention to you the same thing I mentioned to you in the PFA meeting, and that is I'm acting as your city attorney here, and with respect to the PFA, I was acting as the PFA's attorney there. I will be bringing to you before final consummation a conflict waiver, so if that causes you any concern, please let me know, although I hope that it won't, because our interests of both the council and the PFA are aligned with respect to this transaction. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. Do we have any questions?
I have some questions, and I apologize for missing the PFA meeting, but I was down at Georgia Tech at a board meeting that didn't get over with till 5:30, and it's not easy getting up 400 this time of night. What have we seen? I mean, I thought this was going to come before the council at a work session to look at all of our different financing alternatives before we decided to go down the revenue bond avenue. Have we seen, I mean, what have we got that shows the numbers and the different financing alternatives to decide this is the right path to even go down? Because to me, this is very much a policy decision that the council should be making, and I just wasn't aware that we had decided that this was the right way to go.
Excuse me. Back a few years ago, we hired the consultants, the financial advisors, Davenport, and through our discussions with them and their experience with different financing available, we discovered that this is probably the best route to go, given that interest rates are so low. And as far as revenue bonds go, it's something that we could do through the PFA as a financing arm of the city of Milton. The other options we could do would be going to the market for general obligation debt. That would be requiring a voter referendum. We also looked at taxable financing through just going directly to the banks themselves and just doing just a loan from the banks. But I think that we would get a better interest rate going through doing a private placement bond, what we've brought forth to you today.
But what about the cost associated? Because there's going to be a much lower cost associated with, if you go directly to the banks, than there's going to be associated with the revenue bonds.
I'm not sure about that. I think the banks have to have kind of collateral and all of that. I mean, I believe that we've looked at all of that and through.
I would really like to see the numbers, though. I mean, I'm having a hard time with just proving this just based on words. So.
Hi, I'm Roger. The authorization tonight is really just to proceed with the financing. The precise terms of the financing that you're referring to have not been locked in. Robert and Stacy are going to send out a request for proposals from various lenders, and they're going to get back financing alternatives and options, variable rate, fixed rate, 15-year term, 10-year term, and then we are going to come back to both the Public Building Authority and to you for your final approval on the precise terms. What Stacy's alluding to is that the decision has been made not to do a public bond offering, but to do a bond placement, and the borrowing in this case has to be evidenced by a bond, but it's just like another name for promissory note. So I guess the short answer is you will see all that information at both a Public Building Authority meeting and a City Council meeting.
So this is basically telling us that we're going to go down the path of, not go down the path of the general obligation bonds, but
yes,
another path, but we really don't know all the terms of the path we're going to go down.
Exactly.
And this really doesn't lock us into any terms. It just
correct.
tells us we're not going down this other path.
Tells us we're not going down the other paths, and it also starts the validation proceedings. The issuance of the bond and the execution of the intergovernmental contract have to be blessed by the Superior Court, and so what Ken will do is he'll file the case in front of the Superior Court, and then we'll explain to the judge what we're doing, and the judge will rule that yes, your plan of action is legal and you can move forward with that. So we'll be back before to see you again.
Okay, and I guess when you actually start getting some of the numbers in, that will come before us at a work session so we can actually look at the...
It'll come before you on July 21st through the PBFA and then again before this board in a council meeting. This is setting parameters, allowing us to go to the bid process and allowing us to give a verbal award. This is something we typically do through any kind of contract that we do. And then, of course, the verbal award is pending the approval of this board.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying, though, I'd really like to see this come before us at a work session rather than just at a council meeting, so that we can actually discuss
There's a timing problem with that. When you send the request for proposals out to the lenders, you have to give them a verbal award almost immediately, and then you have to do a formal award, which is board authorization, shortly thereafter. So that's why we're trying to do as much legwork on the front end to get comfortable with the plan of finance, because it's going to be difficult to have, unless you could schedule a work session just prior to the meeting or something like that, or back to back, or maybe a day in advance.
I mean, to me, this is such a big decision for it just to be put before us at a council meeting and not really discussed at a work session. I mean, we're talking about, a $10 million obligation. It just seems like it ought to have a little bit more discussion, as far as the terms and all, rather than just approved at a council meeting.
Yeah, and I guess I've been through this process a couple of times before, but I do have a memory of us discussing this in terms of which type of vehicle we were going after, and the idea of what we're doing here lines up with the way I remembered it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was that's actually what happened, but I mean, there's all kinds of things that can still take place that would allow us to not act on proposals that came back from, I mean, because the terms, we're still unaware
I mean,
of terms
yeah,
and things
I
like
mean,
that.
It's just
and
hard
so,
for me to.
Right, and we aren't
Think of
exactly
approving
sure
con-
what the terms are going to look like
Right.
either. I mean, and this is where we have to trust the financial advisor and me, if you don't mind, and in that, I know that we're going to try to make the right choices for the city. Now, I mean, I can certainly bring Robert in at a work session in June, and we can kind of go through, some of the options that we have in the market as we move forward through this process, and we can always halt this process. That we're going through, we're asking you to go through right now. And Robert is the financial advisor.
Yeah. To me, this is just kind of a policy decision, and that's really kind of what the council should be looking at as policy decisions with the input of advisors that we hired. But it's really a policy type decision, and I'm having a hard time making this big of a policy decision when I feel like I don't have all the backup information on it.
Okay.
It is, but it's also a market decision. In my mind, I know where interest rates are as it is. I know that we had gone down this path as far as coming to this conclusion. And interest rates are going lower as well. I don't like the fact that I don't like the chance of rising rates down the road, obviously, because that, as low as they are, they can always go up from where that is. So I see an opportunity for us in this more than anything else. If we can achieve our objectives of building the park and the city hall and everything else, I know that we're just going down the process of seeing what this is going to look like. We can always say no at some point in time, because as soon as we say no, there's not going to be anybody to want to loan us the money to do it. Quite honestly, it's a market decision there, because people in the market will say no if we say no. So I get that.
And if I had to handicap the thing, I would guess there's probably about a 95% chance you're going to end up with a 10-year fixed rate deal, because banks don't really want to go beyond 10 years. If we went 15 years, the only way we could structure that deal is if the bank has the right to reset the interest rate in the 10th year, or to put the loan back and call it immediately due and payable. While Stacy and Robert and I are going to ask for that option just so we can look at it, I think there's a 95% chance we're going to end up with a 10-year fixed rate deal. The only other component we're going to bid it out is to see what we get back is whether or not we have a drawdown loan. Banks generally require that you take all the money down at the closing. You can't draw it down over time, but we're going to ask them to provide that option.
Like a construction permanent type loan.
Is exactly right. So to see if they'll allow us to do that. But I mean, the reality of it is I've been doing this 25 years, and this is all I do, and I would be shocked if we end up with something other than a 10-year fixed rate, whatever that's going to be. What did Robert say, 3% or something like that, or a 2.9% loan?
So we see this with terms in the 21st. When would you expect to get the proposals back? So I mean, obviously you're going to have some time to.
That's what I was just looking at. I couldn't remember the date that we said that the the bids will be due.
We're going to open the bids.
Was it June?
Approximately a week. Robert is updating the calendar because we just met. It was about a week.
I think it was I think we said that the bids were going to be due back on the 10th of July, so that would be in time for the 14th work session, if you want to see what we get back.
I was going to suggest that if anybody had any individual questions or collectively, just meet with those individually, or less than a quorum if we didn't have time for a work session in front of it.
And I think that might even be better as well, just because of the nature of what we're dealing with here, and there's a lot of questions we're going to have. We'll have a lot of the same questions, but putting that in I could just see a lot of questions being unanswered in a work session as well. If we had those one-on-one meetings, just answer our own individual questions, it seems to make sense to me on that, especially with the timing of it. So
we can take it. So you would like to meet after we get the bids back, or before?
I think that would be good, that we have the option to come in and meet and talk at those things.
We can do that.
Just so we notice that. But if it's a 4-day leeway, we should. Well, I'm sorry, the 10th to the 21st, we'll have some time. But,
all right, well, there's two things here, though. There's questions that exist by some council members related to how did we get to this decision in the first place? Why did we make this choice? So we need to get those questions addressed.
Okay.
Then there's the question of what options do we have once we start receiving responses to the bids. So that those, I see those as really different.
Okay, so what I think I'll do is set up some meetings with you soon, with those people that would like to meet with Robert and myself to kind of go over what we have and what we've kind of been talking about all along. And we'll be, hopefully we can answer some of the questions and then we'll set up another meeting after the bids are in so you can take a look at those.
But really, the only decision that's been made thus far is to take the public offering and a taxable transaction off the table. Everything else is still open. So the only, I mean, I hope I'm answering your questions. The only decisions that have been made thus far, again, is that we've decided not to do a public offering, to sell the bonds to the public. We're going to do a bank loan, and not to do a taxable revolving line of credit.
Right, well, I'm just making sure we address the concerns that the council has in terms of how we got to this particular point. But are we going to be in a position, Karen, do you feel comfortable
I mean, I feel
voting on
comfortable
this?
not doing a general obligation bond, so I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what additional questions then do we have? Okay, do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 14140.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion to approve the resolution by Councilmember Hewitt. I've got a second from Councilmember Kuntz. Additional discussion. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Rick, that was an aye?
That was an aye.
Okay. All opposed, same sign? All right, that's approved. Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
All right, moving on to mayor and council reports. Council members, anybody have anything to report? Matt?
I know Bill's going to talk about Memorial Day, but the Friends of the Milton Library as well has a groundbreaking on Thursday the 29th at 11 a.m. So we're going to have our own library, and it'll be a big to-do, and we're inviting everybody to come so that you can get your picture taken and be a part of our history on that. So 11 a.m. at the corner of Charlotte and Mayfield. And Carter, I'm very excited to see that the Hoboken Auburn Francis interchange is coming along. So
I was going to give a quick update on that at staff reports too.
Anybody else? All right, staff reports.
I was just going to give you a quick update on that. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be transitioning away from the current four-way stop configuration to the roundabout configuration. So if you have an opportunity to avoid that over the next couple of weeks, I probably would. Right now, we're in a little bit of a modified four-way stop. Next, probably beginning of or middle of next week, we're going to transition that to a temporary roundabout configuration, which will allow them to construct the center island. And then probably over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll move out of that center island and begin all the splitters. So heading quickly towards completion on that particular project, and well due. The second one I wanted to...
What's your estimated tally those weeks up? The end of June?
Middle to end of June, yes. The other one I wanted to give you a quick update on was the roundabout at 372 in New Providence. That one is also going into a transition phase. The stops on New Providence and Providence as they exist today are going to be modified in the coming weeks to make them a little bit more difficult. A couple of the legs that go northbound will be removed in order to start bringing up fill on the west side of the roundabout. So over the next couple of months, that's going to also be a very difficult area to work your way through, but all for the good. Hopefully this fall we'll be transitioning that also over to the roundabout. So both those projects moving along well, and hope to see completion of them this year. That's it. Thank you.
When do you expect that one to actually be complete? Because I get a lot of questions.
Probably in the October-November timeframe.
So I'm telling everybody the end of the year, so that's safe.
Weather will play a big part in that. If we have a dry summer and can get some work done, that'll be a little bit sooner. But right now it looks like October.
Chris?
Good projects. I don't, other than that update, the rest of what we've got tonight is an executive session. We've got several items, but we'll handle it there.
All right. So we do have an executive session requirement tonight, so is there a motion and a second to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn to executive session to discuss land acquisition.
Second.
All right, I got a motion to do that by Councilmember Luss, second by Councilmember Kuntz. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. To
feel that bad now, and I'm on an antibiotic, and
You're back up, David. All right.
mine's allergies.
Can I get a motion to reconvene?
So I'll move to reconvene the meeting.
All right.
Second.
Ooh, I like that. Seconded by the man on the telephone. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, that passes. That concludes the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the
Motion to
meeting.
adjourn.
Second.
I was gonna say, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? You guys are killing
With
me.
me.
All right,
Aye.
no, I heard a motion, I didn't hear a second.
I'll
All right, I got a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes. Meeting adjourned.
All right.